Thank you. Once again, we meet after yesterday, where we had a very refreshing and fruitful day. It was quite highly interactive, and I think we don't regret having attended yesterday. So my name is Dr. Violet Makuku of the Association of African Universities. I'm the Quality Assurance Specialist, the Workshops Coordinator, as well as the Project Manager for the Aqua Initiative, which has got 5 consortium partners. Yes, but the association is one of them. So when I look at this period of the COVID-19, I think it has brought us together. And when I look at something like what happened yesterday with about 700 participants, I feel very happy that as we share on the same platform, the harmonization agenda can quickly be realized. So I want to continue thanking you for being part of us as we try to develop and build our continent together so that at least we can become a better continent. So what I also said yesterday is that as an institution, you are able to come forward and offer some best practices of what you are doing, which are aligned to the topics that I have for these webinars. Because like today, we have someone from Accra Technical University who really came forward and said we could have such a webinar. And it's a blessing that for sure the webinar came into fruition. But you don't just tell me like yesterday or today, and you expect that we will be on air with you. There's a quality assurance process that is involved where you need to write your concept note very short to tell us what you want to do. I also want to reiterate that the other days like Monday and Wednesday, the webinars are free and you can also get the materials. But the issue is those are also the days which can be allocated to you if you want to make a contribution of any one of the topics. So since 2016, I was at AAU, and we have these workshops. Those who have benefited earlier on, they know how productive the face-to-face ones can be, but even the virtual ones, those who attended yesterday, and those who have attended earlier on from 30 June 2020 can also testify that we have done a lot together. And I want to thank the vice chancellors and the other university managers who have been on this journey with us. And there are some participants from the 30th of June who have been with us. And I just say, it's my sincere hope that from that time to date, you managed to get something that you have done with the knowledge, information, and skills gained from these webinars to improve your institution, to improve African higher education. And I've said to you yesterday and all the days that if there's any one way of thanking me, if you really feel you want to thank me, it's by bringing the change that we need from all these exchanges that we have had. So allow me to share my screen For those who are just joining us, please write your WhatsApp and email addresses. I'm going to send you the Telegram group link so that we get onto the Telegram, and I won't have challenges of following up individuals. You will just check on the Telegram group of the next event. Thank you. So allow me to share my screen. Yes, so today I'm not going to say much because we have a panel of people who are going to deal with the topic. But I just want to briefly say something here that from yesterday, we learned a lot. And I just want to say, look at the Sustainable Development Goals. And I said in earlier webinars, when you look at the programs that we offer, the courses that make up our programs, and the departments, faculties that we have in our institutions, each and every one of them is linked to at least one of these SDGs. And I continue to reiterate in each and every webinar that we are going to have, so that it sticks into our heads that our national accreditation bodies, our institutions need to be relevant, and from community level, from personal level, from institutional, departmental, program, faculty levels, you can make a contribution even before you start to accuse your government of not supporting you, of not achieving the SDGs. We are in it together. You are part of the process. As an individual, even if the government is to try, you will see that you may fail the process as an individual. So ownership should start with all of us. And if this is the case, and we have 17 SDGs, and a program addresses at least one, and you know, with multidisciplinary approaches and interdisciplinary approaches, your program, your course, your institution, your faculty, your department can at any one point address more than one of these. So why do we tell students that, you know, we have a problem of topics, so just find any topic, including one which has already been done, and do away with it? Isn't what you want is graduation? We are going to hear the unpacking of this from our panelists, and I will stop sharing this one and bring on board another one, right? For those who attended yesterday, I think we talked about a number of issues regarding all this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, whilst you are looking at that, I just want to quickly read you something which is here. Very quickly. But what I'm going to read has been circulating this week and maybe last week. A troubled PhD student commits suicide in Karachi. A disturbing news has come from Karachi that a PhD student, Nadia Ashrafi, has committed suicide allegedly due to a supervisor's behavior. Nadia Ashrafi was a doctoral student at Dr. Panjwan Center for Molecular Medicine and Research, Karachi University. Nadia Ashrafi was a doctoral student of Dr. Panjwan Center for Molecular Medicine and Research, Karachi University. Nadia is described as a brilliant student and is a worrying note that she was unable to complete her PhD. In a mammoth 15 years, I want to underscore 15 years, period. She was reportedly having family and psychological issues too. A full-length inquiry must be commissioned at once to bring the truth out. It is perhaps a wake-up call to revisit and refine research supervision framework in Pakistan. My quick reflection as a supervisor on this incident is as follows. A PhD or MPhil is an independent piece of work of a student, and supervisor is only a mentor and guide to ensure that the student remains on the right track. Supervisors should not try to own students or their work. If a student is unable to complete PhD in time and is still enrolled on the program, it is as much as supervisor's failure as it is failure of a student. A supervisor must be supportive of students and their work. Supervisors should be facilitators, but unfortunately, it is commonly heard that they become more of a hurdle. It is very common to ask in some cases, force students to publish their research work with supervisors as a lead author. It is a professional dishonesty. A parameter should be in place to stop this. A mechanism should be in place to avoid and detect any happening of harassment, abuse, or biased treatment from supervisors, as well as from students. The research supervision must be supervised. Research is an important academic activity, and research-led teaching is the way forward. It is paramount that research integrity is ensured so that research continues to inform action, testing, and theory, and contribute to development of knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just part of what happens. Sometimes we have also read articles of students who killed their supervisors. This is a balanced event which we are having today. We are going to look at the positive side of students, the negative side of students, the positive side of supervisors, the negative side of supervisors, because here we are not to support any cohort of these groups. So this time around, I just want to say at the end of the day too, what may become painful is that the sleepless nights of the students may end up this way. Submit 4 copies, hard copies during that time to your department, or else you won't graduate. Even to date with ICT, students are subjected to such, and at the end of the day, you see this is where it ends. Is it where it is supposed to end? In the upcoming webinars, we are also going to look into this and reflect into, is this where it ends? And where actually is it supposed to end? Those webinars will redirect us to where these things should end. So I'm stopping my sharing, and at this juncture, allow me to introduce the first speaker, who is a senior lecturer in marketing and strategy at the Accra Technical University Business School, the director in charge of business development at Africa Center for Epidemiology, African Centers of Excellence. Another program that is also administered by the Association of African Universities on behalf of African governments and on behalf of the World Bank. In terms of education, a PhD candidate in final stages at University of Bolton in the UK. He did his MBA in Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Ghana, Bachelor of Education and Teacher Certificate in Education, University of Cape Coast in Ghana, professional membership, a fellow, Global Strategic Management Incorporated in Michigan, USA, associate member, Chartered Institute of Marketing, Ghana, core skills in research and publications in marketing, marketing communications, digital and offline. So that is our dear Frank Frimpong Opnu. You are most welcome. Please, you can come on board and share your slides and start your presentation. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makuku. I want to thank God and all participants herein for this great opportunity to make this presentation. Fellow faculty members, students, all stakeholders, all protocols observed. Today we're going to have an interaction which must be devoid of personal feeling. So I would want us to take ourselves from the faculty situation. If you're a student, just extricate yourself from the student situation so that we can all have one mindset. Let's take away all forms of emotions from this discussion, because I want us to address it in a way that is very objective. So let me share my screen so that we can have a discussion on what we have today. Okay. I hope members can see my slide now.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you very much. So you're once again welcome to today's AAU Zoom Virtual Higher Education Quality Assurance Workshop in Research. Today's topic is the African Students' Research Experience, making a case for quality supervision. So we're going to look at the African student telling his or her own experience and what we can also do in terms of making sure that the supervision experience is good for the students. My name is Frank Frimpong Opnu, a senior lecturer in the School of Business, Accra Teka University, as already has been introduced by Dr. Makuku. So this is the background of the presentation for today. We will be looking at the background situation, the nature of the student-supervisor relationship. How is it like? Where does the relationship go wrong? Mistakes made by students, challenges faced by students, where supervisors go wrong, the challenges faced by supervisors. What constitutes quality supervision? And then we'll end at that. Now, the popular thinking amongst African students and even faculty is that completing a project work is just a mere requirement for the award of a degree. So this is the mentality for which most students undertake the project work in most of the African universities. And so they will do everything they can in order to come by a project work, whether it is in their capacity or seek help elsewhere in order to finish. But you and I know that the student's project work is expected to produce new knowledge for decision making. In fact, it is a way of contributing to the academic knowledge, to add new knowledge, which can have practical implications for industry, especially, and for all key stakeholders. The question is this the mindset of our students? If not so, what can we do to reorient them so that they can understand that it is their own work for which they are contributing knowledge to society? academic research output may be increasing in Africa over the years. However, research has shown that the quality of research in Africa seems to be dwindling over the years in most African universities. Just one example, Arasa and Mulingi at the United States International University in Kenya in 2013, in an Africa-wide universities research, this is what they reported. They did a survey in North Africa, West Africa, East Africa, and South Africa. And they found out that the bulk of dissertations examined were of low quality. And that only 37% were rated as excellent or good. Okay. Now, similar research done in Tanzania, South Africa over the years point to the same situation. It means that the quality of the research that students are churning out in our university leaves much to be desired. What are the basic facets or the weaknesses that were identified in this research? First, the inability to adequately contribute to original and valuable knowledge. So most of the research output by students were found to be a mere rehash of the pre-existing literature. They were not adding to new knowledge. So it presupposes that students are not able to identify problems in their societies in order to add on to new knowledge. Students are not observing well, and supervisors are not guiding them to detect problems within their own societies. There's also poor packaging and presentation that often left many of them reading like raw drafts. So an external supervisor comes to the panel and they are reading a draft which appears not to have been supervised. So when it happens this way, then it creates problem for the institution, for the host institution itself. And this needs to be looked at critically. The content that is shown is low in terms of depth, clarity, sequencing, and coherence, amongst others. So students are not able to come out with in-depth knowledge of the subject matter, the clarity of thoughts, the logical sequencing of facts, coherence is lacking. And this means that the students have not been taken through the rigor of logical thinking, okay, and academic writing, and also being able to apply basic quantitative or statistical skills and also qualitative skills. So this is a problem that needs to be addressed. What is the nature of the student-supervisor relationship? Okay. What is it supposed to be? What is the ideal situation? First, the ability of students to produce credible findings and a coherent research depends on their relationship with their supervisors. This relationship, we must emphasize, must be professional. It must be cordial and one of service provider-client relationship. Anything short of this can lead to some different output coming out. So the question is, are we professional in our relationship with students? Do we see them as our clients for which we should render services for which they have paid? We are mere agents of the principal, the university, and therefore we need to reflect the image of the university. And in terms of Africa, we need to reflect higher education in Africa to the students so that they will wish to enjoy what Africa gives to them. Now, where did we go wrong? The first point is that oftentimes there is student-supervisor friction. The professionalism gives way to something that is sometimes unethical. Okay, so you can now see that the relationship developed into something else, especially in the situation of, let's say, male-female situation. We need to respect the boundaries. Okay, now this issue of culture is a serious problem. Often we see project-based supervision as a father-son relationship, okay, or as a mother-daughter relationship. The issue of paternity, paternal leadership in our culture often reflects so that what the supervisor says must be final. We don't have patience to listen to the students. Okay, so the student is your customer, your client. You need to have time and listen to them so that you don't go beyond professionalism. What are their basic needs? Now, the second issue where supervision goes wrong is that of time wasting. Okay, we do not have time to listen to our students. Even when they do send emails into our mails, we don't read, we don't open, we don't give them feedback. So this will delay the process. And at the end of the day, students may not be able to graduate. Consequently, it can lead to legal issues. Some students have sent universities to court, and the consequence has been very damning in terms of the image of the institution. Some students have withdrawn from their studies. Most students are not able to complete. Okay, for the mere fact that the relationship between themselves and the supervisor has gone wrong. But the question is, who do they appeal to? Often there's a big cloud hanging on our supervisors. They are untouchable. They are not supervised. And therefore students have nowhere to report to. And they've grown in pain. And at the end of the day, it affects their mental stability. Are we helping our students? This situation has resulted in deaths and mental illnesses have been reported. Okay, personally, I can attest to the fact that some PhD students, in the course of their work, developed mental problems, and therefore they had to go to the hospital for medication, and some have not been able to recover. This is the situation we are creating for our students. Now, let's look at mistakes by students. The first thing is that there is a basic lack of confidence. And also their ethical disposition is problematic. We need to imbue confidence in our students so that they can come up with a problem, try to come up with objectives, and read through their problems in order to come out with a topic which is researchable. We need to build confidence in them that you can do this work to the finish. And that is very important. Poor planning habits. Our students normally would not have their own timetable. Is that okay? So they start the project without a plan. So the starting point is wrong in the first place, and therefore they cannot follow through to the end. So students also have poor planning habits in the fact that they have not been oriented. They've not been taken through most of the time how they can go about planning their research program. Most students also do demonstrate improper attitudes in their lifestyle, the management of time, okay, having time to sit back and read. All these are attitudinal issues which you and I can help them to address. So a whole lot of work is on us too. Dear students, you sometimes also feel to see your supervisor as your leader, your guide, and your facilitator. Once you have this notion about your supervisor, you are not going to get anywhere. Forget about the comments, the negative things you have heard about your supervisor. For all you know, he's the best out there. Only that sometimes those who are disciplined are seen to be the worst people out there. But take your time to know your supervisor. Take your time to toe his line. I tell you, in terms of research, you need to see your supervisor as the one who is leading you there. So you need to take your time and then follow his instructions. Very, very important. Students' challenges. We need to now look at the challenges of students apart from the mistakes that they do have. Communication challenges. Most African students do have poor oral skills in English as well as writing skills. The English language is not our native language. The transition from the local language to the English language is problematic right from the base, from the start. And so if we do not address this issue, our students will continue churning out academic articles which are not professional. So you go to students' project work and you say, wow, what's going on here? Lots of grammatical errors, sentence construction, syntax. Okay? So once these things are happening, it doesn't give out a clear message as to what the student is actually heading to. So we can proffer ideas of which we can use to help solve some of these communication challenges. Some students also lack adequate financial resources. Okay, some students face serious financial crisis, and most of the times the supervisor may not be aware of this. So you are taking the student through the usual, academic work, but behind the scene, the student is suffering in terms of finances. Okay, they come to you from faraway places. You still want them to come to you. They want to send you email, but you want them to do hard copies because you don't understand their situation. It is time we put ourselves into the shoes of our students. We need to have compassion, feel the way they feel, so that we can address some of these challenges. Students also face transitional difficulties into research. Studies have shown that there is a serious disconnect between the undergraduate program as well as the postgraduate. In fact, some universities only require a long essay for the student to complete, but these students graduates and then he or she wants to undertake a postgraduate degree in a research master's and fail. Meantime, your basics are wrong. How can you move ahead? This is a serious problem in academia in Africa. Master students are transitioning into PhD programs without the core research training, research capacity in order to undertake an independent research work. Does this resonate with you? Did you wish that you had core training before starting your PhD? This is a serious problem that we do face. Now, fellow supervisors and faculty, where do we go wrong? It is a basic fact that some supervisors are to blame for the failure of many students' research projects. Some tend to be too authoritarian. We tend to be threatening, impolite, and unfriendly to our research students. All power is in your hands, so what you say must go for the students. This is not the situation. Let's have time to listen to our students. Maybe they have something to give. Sometimes lecturers or supervisors use threats. We threaten our students, okay, for the mere fact that they may not have yielded to some request that you have made. These are very, very dangerous. In fact, I have witnessed situations where some faculty will go deep to choose the kind of student they must supervise. Is that okay? These are happening, but we sit down and we watch. Sometimes we are also impolite and unfriendly to our dear research students. So let us also know where we go wrong. They deserve respect. If you want to earn respect, then you also need to command it. Okay, you need to feed into it. This is a serious problem, lack of emotional intelligence, emotional maturity. In fact, faculty needs serious training on emotional intelligence. You cannot just flare up when the student fails to meet some standards. You need to investigate, have control, and understand why the student is behaving this way. Okay, but you don't flare up, decide not to look at their project work at all, not listen to them, etc. So we have to be very much in control of our emotions when it comes to supervision. Sometimes we also do have a know-it-all attitude. We are the repository of all research knowledge. We are not giving room to what others can give to us. We fail to stay abreast of current research trends because we have assumed a position of knowing it all, so we wouldn't even bother to learn about the current trends in research. And this, at the end of the day, makes us become quite shallow indeed, because you are not reading. You don't know the current software, the current system that are coming up for you to stay ahead of your students, supposedly. Sometimes you intimidate the students and you make the research success a mirage. So let us not intimidate them. Let us not cow them into submission. We must respect them. There is also the issue of failure to allow for co-supervisors. Based on point 1, we need to get others in place to also share knowledge and help us go through the work. Let's read this one and see if it relates to us. It's a quote I've taken from a particular research. This is the supervisor's comments. I believe I do have a fair sense of what quality constitutes. As I'm saying, If it's the methodology that I'm not familiar with, I tend to co-opt another supervisor, another co-supervisor. The co-supervisor will then be co-opted for specific reasons. In other words, I'll task them with the methodology. Can this methodology do that? That would be a quality assurance in that area. If it is a content area, I don't believe as a supervisor that I have to read about the content area really to be abreast with it. I do believe the student can teach the supervisor about the content if there is a specific content area. If it's really complicated, I would co-opt someone very medical and where only a medical expert could actually really do that. So this is the mindset of a particular supervisor. Does this resonate with you? Now, what are the challenges that supervisors normally face, for which they are also not able to deliver? In the first place, there is lack of institutional capacity building to stay abreast of our current research knowledge trends. Have African higher education managers been training, spending? What is the budget allocated for research training? If we draw our budgets at the end of the day, what amounts are allocated to making sure that our supervisors are top there in terms of research? This is a huge question because it is what you put in that they can deliver. If you keep them at one level, they will not be able to deliver well. Also, there is poor access to electronic resources, equipment, and modern technology in the field. Laboratories, workshops are outdated, especially for us, for the basic sciences. You go to laboratories and the equipment are heavily outdated. How do we expect students to conduct meaningful research within these circumstances? We need access to basic electronic resources, databases, modern softwares, but we don't have access to them. How can we deliver in these circumstances? When you put these together, at the end of the day, it is going to lead to low institutional and also self-motivation. So the institution has to motivate the supervisors. The supervisors need to have what we call internal motivation, a self-made person, the belief that you can also deliver by seeking knowledge. Because if you don't have knowledge or current knowledge, you tend to be inferior. Is that okay? You look down upon yourself. You develop inferiority complex in yourself. And you try to counter this inferiority complex by extending it to your students. And this is where the problem normally comes with us. We need to be objective and realistic about this. What constitutes quality supervision? The research skills and experience of the supervisor is very, very important. Without this, you can't undertake any meaningful supervision. Then also supervisory approaches that supervisors employ and their commitment levels. Are you well abreast of current trends in research methodology? Yesterday, we had the opportunity for Dr. Makuku to take us through research methodology. Are you abreast? Okay, so that you can extend saying to your students, are you able to distinguish clearly, okay, for example, between positivism, interpretism, and also pragmatic approaches? These should guide you. Are you able to distinguish clearly between qualitative research and then quantitative? Do you know about the key strategies of research? So when the student brings something to you, you are not able to distinguish clearly. Okay, I have seen project works where students are citing, for example, hypothesis, complex hypothesis, when they are doing qualitative research, and the supervisor is not able to detect, and it goes on. Some of these are problematic. You need to know your game and deliver. You also, quality supervision is where there is emotional maturity and also tolerance levels of the supervisor are very, very high. Is that okay? Sometimes you can have the best students in front of you, but some of them can, because of youthful exuberance, they tend to be high people. They want to be highfalutin. They want to stretch their shoulders. But take your time and study them. They may be the ones that can come out with very serious work. Quality supervision also comes in terms of student support facilities. Okay, in your institution, do students have access to financial support services? Are there journal clubs which help students to come out with articles for peer review? okay, so that they themselves can begin writing and be criticized by their own? Are there opportunities for statistical skills, basic statistics to learn? Are there opportunities for conferences and workshops for students as well as supervisors? Think about these things. Are there availability of research tools, electronic resources, databases, software? All these come together to ensure quality supervision. So you see that quality supervision is multi-dimensional. Is that okay? It's not just the lecturer or the co-supervisors. The institution itself should have that framework which can help push the research agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm concluding by saying that quality supervision is a multifaceted phenomenon, not only embracing the knowledgeability of the supervisor, but also his or her ability to transmit the knowledge and skills to the students. So you should be able to have that skill, the art of transfer of knowledge. You should be able to facilitate. You don't own the work. The student owns the work. So let's give them the necessary environment to be able to carry their work through. The ability to induct the students into the research community, the ability to guide the student both socially and academically, and also in interpersonal skills. These are very crucial for the students to be able to go through their research work. Ladies and gentlemen, these are my personal details, so I need you to take note of them. We also try to fill up the gaps in research capacity building. That's our website, www.ace-gh.org. You can also go to the same website and then you register. We welcome Africans from everywhere. We have Africans from Tanzania, Kenya coming up, and basically we have free content that we give to you. But the vision is to make sure that Africa is research ready. We want to change the research narrative of Africa and go to better paradigms where we can say that Africa is improving. Thank you very much for participating in this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for a rich presentation. I think you touched on pertinent issues, but of importance, I think, is emotional intelligence, patriarchy, and also the issues of resource materials. This time around, there are some people who were doing their researches, and with the outbreak of COVID-19, they now started saying, how do we go about it? But there are many ways of killing a cat. Now, it means that some people could do their desk researches, others could do some Zoom links and invite people in case of interviews. All those whom you were supposed to have focus group discussions with, you could invite them on a Zoom link, Microsoft link, or a Google platforms. But because of this rigidity, to say until the lockdown ends, I will take the wait and see approach, all these really work against us. But how come some universities remained open and they did the researches which made a difference in their institution and in their countries, as they looked into how they could also develop ventilators and sanitizers in a situation where the whole world was affected? And you know that where we often rush to, hey, we bought this ventilator from America. We bought this ventilator from Australia after failing to get it from the UK. No, there's nothing to be proud of. We should do these things ourselves. And from this COVID-19 period, we realized that we could do it. And the momentum should not be lost. But the issue is when you become obsolete, you become irrelevant, your institution will eventually close. I will give the concluding remarks when everybody else has talked. This time around, allow me to welcome our first student, Tsitsi Chundu. She is a human resources and administrative executive at MOLDN. She serves as a Human Resources and Administration Executive at Africa Leadership and Management Academy in Harare, Zimbabwe. She has extensive experience in talent management, education, counseling, training, and church leadership. Tsitsi holds a BA in Industrial and Organizational Psychology and BA general degree. She completed a MSc in Governance, Leadership and Management with Africa Leadership and Management Academy. Tsitsi is a member of the Organization Leadership and Development Network and Institute of People Management of Zimbabwe. Tsitsi, you are welcome to do your submissions. So we are giving you like 5 minutes to begin with. Don't look at the time. I'll be the timekeeper and I will stop you maybe to get into the second round. Thank you, Tsitsi. You are most welcome. There are other students who are not on the flyer. And can you quickly send me WhatsApp messages? Those whom I said they were also going to get an opportunity to say 1 or 2 words. Thank you. Tsitsi, welcome on board.
Thank you very much, Doc, for the welcome and a good day to everybody else. I'll start my presentation by the popular statement in each and every dissertation and thesis, which goes, I would like to thank my supervisor. My question is this a mere rhetoric or it's genuine? And I'll leave it like that. For me, this whole supervision exercise has got 3 main players: the student, the institution, and the supervisor. So I'm gonna just give 1 point on each probably. So to take from what Dr. Frank said, the issue of new knowledge, what I find to be the challenge is that the moment students want to bring in new topics, they are dismissed on the basis that they are not researchable. The supervisors do not want to go through that whole process of trying to panel beat the topic into a researchable thing, and then the topic just die like that. So that's a major challenge. Then the issue of feedback. Apart from not coming on time, there's the whole issue that the feedback is not comprehensive. There is no clarity. The issue is just revisit this. There is no direction, because as a student, I've actually done a lot, and I think I'm there. So I think the feedback should come in a detailed way, in a way that allows the student to know which direction should they be moving on. So I'm looking at the supervisor maybe giving reading material, suggesting models, suggesting theories, and things like that, so that the student can actually know how to move forward. Then for the institutions, usually there is a late allocation of supervisors. So the student probably have gone with their topic, they've gone to the proposal stage. When they want to defend, this is when they are told that this topic cannot work. So I feel there's a real short-changing of students there, because these students have already lost a lot of time, especially if it's for bachelors and masters. There's usually a very limited space of time. There's a timeline which the student must. So I think the institutions need to improve on that. Then usually there are those guidelines or house style that institutions have. Some of them are not that detailed. There is not the information that is needed, but the institution will just say, check in the house style, check in our guidelines, but the guidelines are not as detailed as they want to assume. So this leaves the student maybe guessing or going ahead with whatever they want, however they want to do certain things, only to be told at a certain stage that no, it should actually be this and that. So institutions need to improve in terms of the guidelines, in terms of the house style that they have. Then for the student, I think students need to improve on communication, because life is happening. You're not just working on the research. There are all other things. You are an employee somewhere, probably you're a mother, you're a wife. There's a whole lot that is happening. So students sometimes just go quiet, without really explaining to the supervisors what is happening to them. So if there be something that really is making you not to make progress, or is making you fail to meet certain deadlines, I think there is need for you to communicate with your supervisor, so that the two of you can actually work how you can go about your research, even amidst that. This will actually help the supervisor to help you better. So I think for now, that will be my submissions. Over to you, Doc.
Yes, thank you very much for a sound submission. So what are the implications of our policies, our procedures, our processes? How serious do we take this? We will get it in my concluding remarks. Next, I just want to call upon Ude James from Nigeria. Ude James is still a student of master's. He will tell us his experience that he tried to do a master's just like the Indian lady, and then the Pakistan lady, something happened, and all the things went wrong. Now he's in the process of doing another master's. He's an assistant registrar in Nigeria with the Federal University. I can't pronounce the name, head of administrative unit, business education department for quite some time. Yes, he has done quite a lot. He has been selected in many times to organize and distribute materials and to meet classroom instructional needs. And so I think he knows the side of students' challenges. Educated students in strategies for utilizing core principles of discipline to address practical problems in the field. I think I can spend the whole day, but I know we are not here much for CVs, but sometimes it's just good to also have a brief background about people. So you are welcome, Ude, to make your submissions, and we will listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon from Nigeria. I want to begin by saying that, or borrowing a leaf from the position of University of Waterloo publication, that the key to success of graduate education program is fostering an environment that is open and conducive to effective and responsible learning and research. More so as graduate education involves complex interaction among various partners engaged in knowledge acquisition, knowledge management, and knowledge conversion. Such an environment is created by a joint effort of senior administrators of higher institutions, departments, faculties, offering graduate programs, staff, graduate supervisors, members of advisory committee, and graduate students themselves. That is to say, it is a whole gamut of policies, scholarship, and mentorship. And I want to thank Dr. Makuku especially for coming up with this webinar, because it avails us the opportunity as students and members of faculty to, actually be able to communicate maybe our problems, our plights, or challenges, as the case may be. I would say that the average African university is unconducive of, now I'll be dwelling more on graduate education, please, because I think my challenge is peculiar to my the challenges I faced while I was doing my postgraduate. I never had any such while I was pursuing my BSc program. In that case, I'll be dwelling more on graduate education program. I would say that the average African university or tertiary institution is unconducive for the African students or average African student. It's characterized by fear, caution, and if you like, witch hunt. The environment falls short of free expression of concerns and expectations. And there's this general notion that graduate students appear to be at risk to complain or disagree with their supervisors or course lecturers, and this hampers quality and scholarship. This also undermines the fulcrum of graduate education program as involving a complex interactions between graduate students and their supervisors. The other point is the alienation of supervisors. Apart from some supervisors being hostile to their supervisees, the other problem is that most of the average African supervisor or tertiary education supervisor most of the time tend to be alienated from the supervisees. That is, they are almost invincible most of the time. Yeah, before COVID, the norm has been such that you must meet with your supervisor face to face, to be able to, which is also cool. That is also good because it will enhance or foster interactions, which is key to graduate education program. But what is heartbreaking is that these same individuals alienate themselves from their supervisees, even after giving instructions, things like, don't call me on the phone, always come to the office whenever you want to see me with your work, and at the same time, they would never be on seat, and that is worrisome. So the experience is such that we need to move from the status quo, from where we are to where we are supposed to be. That is to say, there is the need for university graduate education program stakeholders to always engage the students, arrange for regular meetings, maybe involving advisory committees, because you see that sometimes when students are facing challenges and they cannot complain, the university management at some point are also less concerned. And this gives the supervisors the impetus to just feel like they can just do anything and get away with it. Yeah, obviously there are cases where the students fall short of their own biddings, but the fulcrum or the hallmark of the whole thing is mentorship. How often do the supervisors open the door of communication between them and their supervisees? Because I think it is a collaborative kind of effort. While the student is trying to make up his own a part of the deal, the supervisor also has to do as much as possible to meet up with his or her own view. If I should personally, on a personal note now, if I should start communicating with emotions now, I might not be composed enough to mention some ordeals that were also avoidable and were not also supposed to come on board. And you see that if you interview most of the students, they go through one form of challenge or the other in the course of trying to come up with their quality research work and all of that. So my submission is that the average African higher and tertiary institution supervisor should see the whole arrangement or university education system as involving a lot of relationship and interaction between the lecturers or the supervisors and the students and the supervisees, as the case may be. Thank you very much for listening.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. And this time around, we are coming to Ghana. So we started in Zimbabwe, moved to Nigeria, and now we are in Ghana. In Ghana, we are calling Beatrice. She's currently pursuing a doctoral studies in English. She holds an MPhil degree in English and a Bachelor of Arts degree. She has about 7 years of teaching experience at the tertiary level. She is fueled by a desire to aid, mentor the youth through education additionally in the areas such as their character building, integrity, and in their leadership skills. As such, she's dedicated considerable time to teaching, coaching, so she will tell us about these things that we have been talking about, and mentoring. Beatrice has done a lot, and I think in the interest of time, I will allow you to come on board and share with us your experiences. And I encourage you that if you are picking something which has already been said, let it be adding a new dimension that has not been presented, so that we continue to build on new information and add on new information. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Makuku. Good day to everyone, especially the major stakeholders on this platform, representatives of various universities and their members, students, participants, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is indeed a privilege to contribute towards this discourse on this distinguished platform. Once I was engaged on this topic, I used actually the opportunity to speak to several of my colleagues, both here in Ghana, at the University of Ghana, other universities in Ghana, as well as colleagues in universities outside Ghana. However, all the submissions had common grounds and therefore were related. So my presentation is going to hint information. I was going to bring out issues on students, on faculty, on certain institutional lapses that are all part of this whole process. The African student research experience is actually indeed a very unique experience, okay? It is an experience that can actually lead to academic fulfillment in that the student is able to attain or discover him or herself more, or may not even discover anything at the end of the day. And within this structure, within this African space, there are factors, cultural factors at play. That is the way we live and how it also impacts on the academic interactions, especially when it comes to the supervisor-student relationship or the mentor-mentee relationship. There are partial and temporal changes. There are institutional structures impacting this process. There are inadequate funding opportunities and even resources to enhance both the student and the supervisor on this whole trajectory. It's also being affected. Crucially, again, is the strength and the potential of the student can all impact the journey significantly. Currently, the impact of COVID-19 on academic work, teaching, learning, research, and even central to this is supervision, makes it even more compelling for academic institutions of higher learning to try to set up facilities that could facilitate and impact academic supervision significantly to relieve research students amidst the fear going on, the uncertainties, the increased stress, the anxiety, the depression that comes with this new normal environment. And these issues indeed call for this timely intervention of graduate supervisors or advisors and students to actually adopt excellent measures in managing this relationship successfully. Hence, this excellent and timely discourse that we are having. What I consider very significant challenging to this particular mentor-mentee, supervisor-student relationship is the lack of orientation for both students and supervisors. The most important thing is that if both supervisors and students are clear on the roles to be played by each member through efficient communication skills, the relationship could be negotiated right from the onset, which will serve as the platform on which both mentor and mentee, their relationship built on. Because this relationship, it's a long relationship. It could almost be likened to a marriage relationship, and it's not a one-off thing. So it could even last between 3 to 7 years and even beyond the process, because the relationship still continues. Both supervisor and student come into the relationship with expectations, right? And these expectations will be at varied extremes in most cases. For instance, whereas the supervisors expect this, students also expect that. For instance, we can have, and most of these expectations are usually diametrically opposed in most cases, hence erupting certain challenge or bring about chances and misunderstandings, disagreement, miscommunication, misalignment, and unfulfilling realities. Student feels, I am doing this right. I do not get the supervisor. Why is he or she behaving this way? Supervisor thinks, what is wrong with this student? He or she falls off expectation. This expectation is also based on what the supervisor thinks and not what the student knows. So it is important that there is the orientation of goals, orientation of ideas, orientation of plan, processes based on each unique supervisor-mentee relationship. Secondly, there seems to be transitional gaps in terms of the approach at the undergraduate level and what is expected of a student at the graduate level. While at the undergraduate level, much of it is based on the instructions of the supervisor at the graduate level, the student is expected to lead the process, but sometimes there's a need for such orientation. Students must be oriented to know what is expected of them at the new level before and even during their program. For most people, by the time they realize their expectation, it may be too late. So once one is not adequately prepared mentally on the new demand, certainly the process becomes challenging. Also, there is this transfer of personal bias through lack of experiences and educational training. So because most of the lecturers are thrust in the environment of supervision, immediately one joins the academic community, one is giving students to supervise. Sometimes the inadequate expertise of the supervisor in the subject area of the student also hampers the process. So invariably, other things ensue as one may transfer their challenging PhD experience onto the student. Sometimes with the popular saying, I suffered, so you must also go through what I went through. Graduate student is just like that. If you don't go through this, it means you haven't really encountered graduate studies, making the students suffer the most in this particular dyadic relationship. And finally is the issue of emotional intelligence. This is central to the entire process. When the supervisors empathize with their students through their use of language, they would be guarded on using considerate language that will paradigm shift the mindset of the student, building in them the confidence throughout the process and beyond. Language is a big part of shaping behavior, shaping culture, and interconnection on this sensitive, complex, and dynamic interpersonal space. Hence, with great power through language comes great responsibility and the ability to enact great consequences. There should, I believe, or I humbly say, there should be institutional guidance to ensure improved methods, programs, up-to-date perspectives on approaches on student mentorship, supervisor student mentorship taking place at various academic levels within higher educations in Africa. This practice may enhance secured, maintained, and guaranteed service. Institutions should further promote learning programs that orient and reorient supervisors and students on a supervisor and graduate process, since one benefits from the orientation more during the process than just at the beginning of the program when one has not yet experienced the process. I suggest if yearly orientations and discussions on the way forward can best meet this, when we do this, can best meet this indispensable academic need. I must acknowledge that although some leading universities in Africa are ensuring this form of quality assurance, most African universities may not be adhering to these guidelines. Hence, it's emotional and mental health drain on both students and our supervisors. In addition, and finally, students must do their best to enhance their capacity. The onus also lies on students at the end of that interaction to be ready mentally before embarking on their graduate journey, knowing and acknowledging their strengths and weaknesses, and they must, in the midst of this interaction, must develop proactive skills, proactivism. They must be innovative, they must be creative, and they must be equipped with leadership skills to also contribute successfully to the entire process. Other than that, the process is truncated and nobody meets their set goals. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. Thank you. I think all of them, they are telling us unbiased experiences which they gathered from other colleagues and from themselves. So I just want to pick this one. You know, it's so funny and saddening really to think of the fact that in 2020, a supervisor would tell a student, just to support what Beatrice has said, if I took 10 years, and that was in 1960, in 1970, when you did your PhD, if I took 10 years, this time around in 2020, you expect your student to take 15 years, 13 years. They should take more time than you did to do their PhD. How? It only shows that we are redundant, and maybe, I don't know, because this time around in the advent of ICT, why should they take 15, 13 years? They should actually take 1/3 of the time you took, because you used to collect, do questionnaires, go to each individual collecting data, come and sit on your computer, which was very slow, and there were no laptops then. You start feeding in the data. That time there was no SPSS, there was no Stata, there was no In Vivo, there was no Survey Monkey. But today, just generating a tool and a link and send it through emails, send it through WhatsApps, send it through Telegram, because the data collection part is the one which was quite taxing and which would demand more time. Why should the students take more? And they are collecting their results. For example, in SurveyMonkey, you are already collecting them from an Excel sheet, and you can already feed them into SPSS. You're not knowing those things should not be a punishment for students. Rather, we should learn what is prevailing, upscale ourselves, and move on. Why should they suffer? Were they your supervisor? No, ladies and gentlemen. And we are doing a lot of disservice to ourselves, because the students whisper to each other, which university did you go to? They say, this one, how many years? I say, I completed in 9, but you know, I was supposed to complete in 2 years. But you know, there's Ruth and Joseph and Mavis who are still there. Why would I go to such a university where you never complete a degree program? No, I will leave your institution and choose another one where there's a good track record of completion. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to go to our next presenter. You know me, I observe the SDGs, so it's now a male. We have Enoch, who is a graduate of geoscience with BTech from the prestigious Federal University of Technology. Maybe his experiences there are good, because he says prestigious. Okay, he holds a Human Resources Management Mentorship Program, a certificate from DB Consulting. He is an alumnus of Crescita Academy, an arm of the Crescita Human Capital Development Program, an HR intern with DB Consulting, who is gaining progressive experience in HR analytics, candidate sourcing, background checks, performance management, learning and development. You see, I can go on and on, but what I'm even picking from the students whom I selected randomly is that they themselves are adults. They are family people. They've got some other background knowledge. They are also employed elsewhere. But sometimes when we treat them, it's like you are treating a 3-year-old. Being a student becomes a crime. no, please, I'm not supporting students all through, but I know Tsitsi at one time told me that, Doc, when I was doing my proposal, I wrote it and gave it to one of the fellow students. I think they had made a cluster for those who were doing their current studies. So she told me when I gave this person, and she exchanged to also give a yes, she realized that it was mere laziness in everything. There's nothing of substance which she could talk to about a colleague. And so even on the side of students, we find some students wanting, if you are lazy, if you don't create time for your studies, I always tell even colleagues, you can never make it. There are certain things which your supervisor can also not do for you. So students are also found wanting, in case people may accuse me of being biased in supporting students. No. I won't support them throughout. Now, welcome Enoch and share with us your experience. After Enoch, we are going to jump to Kenya, where we are going to talk to Faith, and Faith is also going to share with us her experience. Enoch, welcome on board.
Okay, thank you so very much, Dr. Dr. Makuku. It's a pleasure to be here. And due respect to my lecturers and stakeholders that are in the house. Pardon my voice, got lost this morning. So I'm going to talk based on my experiences solely and experiences of people, my friends that I've gathered. And I'll talk basically on these 5 principles: relationship, emotional intelligence, laziness, understanding, and leadership orientation. Permit me to start with this story. I was a leader of a fellowship in school. And then after my project and all of that, I was called that one of our fellowship members committed suicide. But thank God he didn't die. And I rushed to the hospital and I got there. And when we finally found out why he committed suicide, it was because of the pressure from a supervisor. It was because of a pressure from a supervisor. And what was the reason? It was that he couldn't meet up with certain demands and all of that. And that will lead to my first point. The issue of emotions is that the truth is that there is still life after school, irrespective of the project. And so the way you treat a student when you are supervising him depends on a whole lot about, as an effect rather, about how he live his life, even when he leaves that school. Imagine people losing their lives because of a certain supervisor that is not concerned with the emotional welfare of his or her student. That's the first thing. And how much do we understand our students, and how much do our students understand our lecturers? This is not a conference whereby we are we are supporting students alone, but this is a lecture whereby it's fair to everybody. All right. And I want to say that it's true that there are some students that are very lazy, all right? And there are some lecturers too that don't want to work. But the key is in understanding individuals. For example, the supervisor I worked with was a very stern man, very, very strict. The first time I worked with him, he almost sent me out of his office. But later on, when I got to understand how he works, how he does his thing, then we later became best of friends because of understanding of personality. It is very important to understand that there are some students that they are not really good with calculations, but can be good with writing skills. How about focusing on the strength and trying to help him or her with a weakness? That's the first point I want us to consider here. The second is about relationship. Honestly, we've been talking about relationship, and we cannot exhaust the power that relationship has concerning completion, successful completion of projects, especially in the African terrain. All right. Now, the relationship that should be between you and your student is actually that of father and son. But there are 2 dimensions of relationship outside these days. You have that of father to child, and you have that of boss to conductor. Permit me to use boss to conductor. In the side of the world where I live, I come from Nigeria, right? I live in Lagos. There are commuters. Because of the way Lagos is busy, there are commuters that take you from one location to the other, and it consists of a driver and a conductor. The driver drives, but the conductor is the one that conducts passengers. He calls passengers into the buses. Now, the relationship between them is such that when the conductor gets his money, he gives his share to the driver and he drops. It doesn't follow them to the destination. Now, that is how a lot of supervisors are. They just know the topic, all right? They just say one or two things and they leave the students, forgetting that it is a supervisory role, it is a mentorship role, it is a guidance role, forgetting the heart of the matter and just assuming the role of supervision, and supervision that is bossy. All right, so it should be checked into. It should be checked into. It should be the role of father to child. For example, the father is intentional about the growth of the child. The father is intentional about the mentorship of the child. The father is intentional about the supervision and how the child lives his life. If this is what we get from our supervisors, I trust that a whole lot of projects would have been published and a whole lot of inventions would have stemmed up from Africa. I'm working towards publishing now anyways. So if we have these kinds of things, it's going to be very wonderful for the African terrain. See, the whites are not in any way better, but they know how to manage relationships. They understand emotional intelligence. They understand emotional intelligence. What is the emotional connection between you and your student? It's not just about the 1 year. The 1 year can turn to lifetime of opportunities for both the student and the lecturer. Another point is that some of the time, the supervisors put themselves in a place that they are rendering all the favor to students. So they put the students in a tight corner, thinking that if the students, all right, if the students don't do this, don't do that, the student is going to get extra year. But guess what? The student will leave your institution one day, either through passing him or leaving. He will leave and they are alive. But what is the impact that you want to have upon a life? What is the impact that you want to have upon a destiny? What is the impact? What do you want the student to say about you and the reputation of the university? Because a lot of lecturers think it's only themselves, but they are representing an institution, in turn representing a country, in turn representing a territory. So it is what you are. For example, I love my lecturer supervisor so much. God bless his heart. He might be here, Dr. Akinwi from Futa. He might be here. He helped me so much, such that I'm gaining a lot of experiences in what I'm doing. I did flood risk assessment and it's been wonderful, all right, because there was a man that took me to heart. Because of time, let me move on to the next one. It's that students are lazy. It's not, I already said it's not a one-off thing. Students are very, very lazy. Now, there are some students that they just want to relax and just want somebody to do it for them. It doesn't work. Have experiences of friends like that. You just want to relax. You want them to get data for you. You want them to correct everything for you. It doesn't work. Students should be project ready. They should be project conscious. They should be research conscious. They should be able to make a difference in whatever they are doing. And excellence should be the least they want to do. So if that is there, the supervisor, I believe the supervisor will also be happy to work, because nobody wants to work with a lazy man. Even if you have something, everybody wants to ask you that, what do you have? What is it that you want to bring to the table? So my fellow students, all right, I'm still a student, all right, but let's work towards gearing ourselves up. Let's motivate ourselves. Let's bring ourselves to the front line that we want to make our society and our institution proud. Then I'll go to another one, which says that supervisors should stop giving out their projects to students to do for them. They should stop it. They should stop it. Because what it brings about is that it brings compelling. The students are not willing to do what they need to do. So they just want to do and get the grade, either A or B or C, and just get out because they feel they are being used. They are used as slaves to do whatever they want to do. So supervisors to stop it. Imagine me doing a work of a PhD holder. It can't work. I'm just a BTech holder, all right? But you are giving me your work, and because of that, you are putting pressure. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work. So please, let's do our work and let the students do what they are assigned to do. This will lead me to my last point, all right? Because of time, and it's a leadership orientation for supervision. A leadership orientation for supervisors and supervision. Supervision is leadership. Supervision is mentorship. Supervision is guidance. I come again. Supervision is leadership. Supervision is mentorship. Supervision is guidance. See, if I believe that if our supervisors understand the role of leadership, they will be more after the impact than after what they want to cause in the life of the student. The student is very small, but what is going to be wrong with your own impact and your own life? What reflection will people be having about you? And I'm sure most of us, we have this experience that a supervisor that is not good, all right, we know how we relate with them. We are often afraid about them, all right? We don't want to relate with them, so we don't have relationships with them. Everybody wants to be among people that they feel good around. Everybody wants to be among people that motivates them to do the best. So I believe if there is an orientation, probably by the school or probably by the federation, because we are the students, we are the leaders of tomorrow. So there is nothing wrong in the federation, the country, offering the service, offering leadership, mentorship to our supervisors. I believe if they have it, the way at which and manner at which the supervisors will be different, the mentorship will be different, all right? And so we will be able to give good results together, and then we can be the envy of the continent. Africa is full with a lot of potentials. I'm a potential, you're a potential, everybody here is a potential, but we all need somebody that will help us bring out the potential. Every supervisor is a potential miner. Yes, let me use that word. Every supervisor is a potential miner, but how will you leave that student? Will you explore the potential or you will leave it dormant? You will answer at the end of the day to whoever, all right? So please, let's put all of this into account and let us work together as a nation, as a country, and as a continent. Thank you very much for having me on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Enoch, for that submission. I just want to pick one where you said sometimes when you start with a supervisor, it's like you feel the supervisor is strict. Now, it's like you were now talking about me. Remember, I said also I've been a lecturer for some 11 years, but initially when I took a class or when I took you to supervise you, students did not really like my approaches because I used the teacher-centered approach. In terms of research, I would not rush you to do things. Then they would go and compare with what others were doing. And I would tell them, wait until you finish and the results come and you see what you get. So I seemed to be a very strict supervisor, but by the time they submitted their researches, they would not want to see me. But what surprised me, each time results came out, everybody would be calling me, and I now knew why they would call me. And we are waiting at your door. I saw my results. That time there was no technology to post students' results. And so this is $50 US. And I said, what is the money for? You didn't want to see me by the time you, I got a merit. I have a distinction. This one has failed. And so this is the kind of thing we want also to be principled as a supervisor. But later on, your students will understand you. That issue also of being humane, being empathetic. When I was doing my PhD, I went to the University of South Africa. I had a less than 2 months year-old baby, but my promoter was not even black. It's Professor Louis Van Niekek. He took my baby all the time. Makuku, now do these corrections. Take note of this, which I'm telling you. Give me the baby. And then he would go like a male supervisor for that matter. When I'm done, he says, now go and work on Friday. So we would meet Mondays and Fridays. Here is somebody. People would just tell me, Makuku, you are in safe hands. And I don't have any regrets. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to call upon Faith Mwonja from Kenya, a female student almost submitting a research paper for PhD in population and reproductive health from Homa Bay County, Kenya. Welcome on board, Faith. share with us what prevails in East Africa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers. I want also to take the opportunity to thank, to thank Dr. Makuku for the opportunity that he has given unto us to air our views. Foremost, I would like to say that my name is Faith Muhonja. I hope you can see me. This is my slideshow. Welcome to my presentation. My name is Faith Muhonja, a student from Kenyatta University. Currently, I'm pursuing my course in population reproductive health. I'm almost through with my study, with my fieldwork. Therefore, I would like us to share on my experience. On the introduction of research supervision, my opinion is that research supervision is an intimate mentorship. A more qualified supervisor is actually mentoring a junior graduate or a PhD or a master's student so that they can achieve their certificate at the end of their academics. In my opinion, it entails impartation of knowledge, skills, attitude, and competences that culminate to a holistic transformation of a student, not just earning a document or a certificate, however, including transiting this awesome human being into a holistic person. It is always the pride of any student to always look back and say, I owe it to my supervisors. So if there's a supervisor out there listening, if there's a supervisor in the forum listening, this is the desire of every student that is being mentored. I owe it to my supervisor. Unfortunately, more often than not, this is not necessarily the case, where the students and the supervisor work hand in hand in achievement of this doctorate or even their certificate. For my personal experience and challenges with my supervisors, or generally there was limited linkage to research resources. When you link people to research resources, it is so important because when you are linking, you are opening up an area for the person to see even from a different perspective. You are linking to organizations that are dealing in the same area, and therefore they have hands on the ground, issues on the ground are well articulated, and therefore because of that, the student will have an advantage of tapping into this indigenous local existing knowledge. The essence of linkage to resources endeavors issues like practical knowledge addition. When you have the real knowledge on the ground of what is happening on the ground, then you have a chance to improve on those gaps. Technical resource assistance with good linkages. Not that the research supervisor has all this in their store, no, you just point and say, you know what, there's this person who is dealing with this, or there's this organization that are doing what you are doing, therefore you can get in touch and be a better person. Sometimes you just want linkages to resources, financial resources, because carrying out a doctorate study is sometimes very overwhelming financially. And therefore linking to research grants, national research grants, and even any other sources of grants is so great for a student and will make the work of the student much easier. Another limitation was limited mentorship. Is the mentorship there? Yes, but to some level is kind of limited. So the beautiful thing about good mentorship is even refining the research instruments. Because when you have good research instruments that have been refined very well, you will buy in on time, which is very important. Going to the field with the research instruments that have maybe various variables or outcomes Then you come and start collapsing these outcomes to fit into a particular coding. You know, that is wasting of a lot of time. That suppose the instruments were well refined in advance, then it will have been better for that particular student to save on time. Another thing still on that is when the supervisor refines the research instruments, it will limit the garbage in, garbage out issue. Because if you have a wrong tool, you will definitely collect wrong data. Another challenge is limited ongoing or support supervision, especially in the field. A student will feel alone in the field, and sometimes they just want the supervisors back. Navigating through the community political structures can be very overwhelming. Can a supervisor help? Yes, to some extent. If the supervisor is coming from this village, chances are high they know the chief of this village. Just say my student is there coming to your office to seek for clearances, kindly assist. Because when you go around looking for chiefs so that you can get access to the audience, to the target group, can sometimes be very overwhelming. Case in point, when I went to collect my data, for example, navigating through the chiefs and village and then the chiefs and sub-chiefs was slightly easier, but now getting to the real gatekeepers so that I can access these adolescents was sometimes a little bit a challenge in some villages, because there's a village that almost every elderly person was claiming to be a village elder. And you know, village elder means you're parting with something like 1,000 shillings for them to open gates for you to get into their villages. So sometimes it's so overwhelming when you are left all alone in the field. Another challenge was lack of prompt feedback, which has been actually voiced by other presenters, that you can email, you can text, you can write a document, and you wait for slightly longer time before the supervisor gets time to respond. Maybe because of the overwhelming work they have, we need to appreciate that, but that delays the students from progressing. My last challenge was even the linkages to workshops, conferences, and reputable, pocket-friendly research journals that could help the students in coming up with an article, publishing at a pocket-friendly level. How did I try to navigate through it? Because at the end of the day, a study has to be done and someone has to graduate. I just took it.
Just try to summarize Faith quickly.
Thank you. I took one step at a time. Take one step at a time, you'll get there. I know most of the people on the panel are also doing their work. Manage your time well by learning to say no to good people and some additional responsibilities. Embrace loneliness. Because this research, the doctorate is a lonely journey. You prepare that cup of tea, enjoy it. Don't take it personal. When supervisors maybe are not responding maybe promptly according to your opinion, you haven't checked what is in their in-tray. You'll be surprised. They could be performing miracles and you're not seeing. Then when you get in the field and there's no way, why can't you create one? My conclusion will be that research supervision is pegged on the supervisor, and the dominant player is the student. Let the student take up the role and let the supervisor assist in the supervision with a good rapport. We shall actually be glad and say we made it because we stood on the shoulders of the giants. Thank you, that's my submission.
Thank you very much, Faith, for that other dimension. And we really take it, and it's an addition from East Africa, because the Association of African Universities is actually a continental body, and we really need to just show that. Ladies and gentlemen, still we don't have enough time, but be that as it may, I just want to share, you know, for me, I do workshops in quality assurance. But these workshops are unique in one sense. We do research, we do teaching and learning, we are doing e-learning, we do quality assurance, but what I do is to go an extra mile as a quality assurance expert to then check on the gaps. What is quality assurance? Quality assurance is checking on gaps and plugging them. So this is my role, and just to take from what has been presented so far, I just want to make a few submissions from the wonderful panel. Thank you. It has been very much balanced, and I really also enjoyed it. We started from there. So what I want to say before we can open up for some, I can see there are some hands which are up. We need then to look at the implications of all these things to quality assurance in our institutions. We should have research supervision policies and handbooks in place. But the key issue is that simply having these things in place, it's not enough, because if I were to ask you right now, just show me by raise of hands those who have the policies and handbooks in place, I'll be overwhelmed. Almost everyone could say that, and a few do not have this in place. But what matters most is that when you have those in place, they should not gather dust in shells. They are meant to be used. How do we use them? So we check what the policy is saying. We also have the handbooks for distribution, and then we use them to do monitoring and evaluation of the supervision process. And if I were to repeat this, I can say this is one of the lacking things in the institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, when you are a vice chancellor, a registrar, a dean, an HOD, don't just warm your chair. More than warming your chair, go and waste the grasses. What do I mean by go and waste the grasses using your feet? Practice management by walking around. When you practice management by walking around, you meet academic staff, you meet students, you meet academic support staff. All these, just have a chat or two with them. You will be surprised how much you will know about your institution, about your faculty directorate, and what is happening there. The institution is in your hands, and whatever is experienced down here, whether it is good or bad, at the end of the day, it is left to the university leadership. It is left to the college leadership. You carry the accolades which are coming from down the student or down the lecturer, down the security man, down the driver, and it all ends up with the leadership of the institution. So ladies and gentlemen, let's also do management by walking around. As we walk around, we will learn a lot about our institution. But the issue is some of these things do not need money to repair them, to solve them. They just need us to take action, to change our attitude, and to change the way we normally do things. Those who attended yesterday, remember I showed you the monkeys and how the monkeys were transformed into behaving as if they didn't eat bananas, as if they didn't like bananas. Let's transform our institutions in the same manner. Open channels of communication which prevent stifling of students, which normally leads to stress, depression, killing of supervisors, student suicide, particularly from our conduct, our language use. You know, somebody said the father-son relationship, the mother-daughter, mother-son relationship. You can't kill your child because they've done wrong, but you always sit them down. Why am I saying so? I'm saying so because our students can also be mischievous, not even respectful of the supervisors, not even listening to what the supervisor is saying, even if they are wrong. But what matters is how you are going to handle this kind of a student. Sometimes the students can also make supervisors crazy. I'm telling you because I've also been there. You try to call them, please, where are you with the chapter that I gave you? They don't respond. They don't say anything. And one of the days they just come like mushroom and they are accusing you of all sorts of things. We also have such kind of students. So it needs to be balanced. But how do you treat it as the man or the woman with an upper hand? We need staff development, including induction of both lecturers and students. Sometimes, I told you yesterday, these so-called lecturers, either they cheated to have their first degree, their master's and their PhD, because they've been paying somebody. Now it's time for them to supervise. They don't know where to start from. So in order to plug that gap, let's also make sure we have workshops on research supervision for our staff. We also have workshops on how to treat students. And all this will help us. For students, we also need to assist them. Why is it that we assist the students in the same manner? Let's organize something on research methods and supervision skills for students, orientation, and on preparedness. We heard what Faith said, that sometimes you don't even know how you are going to navigate. She talked about creating time and knowing that you need to leave all these responsibilities. I said to Ghanaian friends here, oh, you want to do further studies. So, you know, during the weekends, they move from a naming ceremony to a funeral, to a wedding, to a birthday party, and they always to have the registered marked every time to attend all this. And then I laugh with them to say, at the end of the day, you can't do anything. You need to leave this, and you are also the pastor at church. You are also a dean of a faculty. You are also a what? So you are a father or a mother, and so you just need to make sure some of these roles you relinquish them in order to create time. So students need this to be taught to them, preparedness for the research process, so that they know the implications. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue of patriarchy, you know, patriarchy is a worldwide problem. It's a worldwide problem. If I were to take its depth and breadth, it goes on to where the males get better salaries than the females, and it goes on to the suppression of women in the homes, in politics, where they pronounce 50-50 quota, but when they go into the field, the males are just trying to push the women out, calling them prostitutes and so on. But let's take it into the research arena. Patriarchy as a great part of our African culture. One of our students said it. Even in our culture, it's engraved and it's detrimental and it's not good. It's a cancer in Africa, which has prevented those who occupy lower positions, the younger ones, the females, and the disadvantaged from fully participating and contributing, yet they could make a huge difference. I want to repeat, yet they could make a huge difference. Let's allow students. I've told you that some of these students, they are even older than us. They've got families. They are called fathers and mothers by some people, but we just downplay them and look down upon them and reduce them to toddlers just because we are supervisors. At one time when I went to one country, I was told that before you start a master's program or a PhD, the supervisor asks you to sign a letter that I agree that when I finish this research project, my supervisor is going to be the first author. Let me declare today, let it anger you or not, but this is the truth. Some professors, the professorship is not theirs. That's why they do not perform. It's because over the years, they've used the students, victimized the students to become first authors of papers and push them to professorship. What an unethical practice. Whether in Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Cameroon, Zambia, wherever the practice is, this should stop. It's highly unethical. And I've heard of students who never completed their studies because they were being asked to do what the supervisor wanted in order to align with their own field, which confused the student. This is not right, ladies and gentlemen. It should come to a stop. Communication and writing skills to be taught as university-wide courses. Now, this one is not a higher and tertiary education problem. It's a problem of the education system as a whole. We will talk about it when we cover Bloom's taxonomy in teaching and learning, because you realize that these things now which are being taught to university and college students were supposed to have been taught at lower levels in primary school, secondary school, and senior high school. But now, because the communication and writing skills were not taught, today's students in higher and tertiary education are a problem. Because in the first place, it's not about research only. In all the courses that are taught in the universities, that is why universities have introduced the communication and writing skills, because the students are not able. They can't speak English. They can't write proper English. More so when they now bring this, you brother, what are you talking about? Me, they kill you. This is not professional language to be used for writing. It says for writing research, you need to use professional English, not even with the shortcut of words. When somebody wants to write with, they just write W with a line on top. Who will recognize that? All those things we need to deal with them also. And so while the students are grappling with the research skills, research knowledge, they are also grappling with communication skills. They are also grappling with the tools that we use for data collection, and they are grappling with data analysis. Hence the need for workshops to be organized for students and for staff on data collection, on identifying a problem, on data analysis. But to do so, We need to introduce them to the tools which are now available. We have the Survey Monkey. How many have got a Survey Monkey as an institution which you can use to collect data? Maybe for the Survey Monkey, you even need to pay. How many of us can use the Google Docs? The Google Docs have got Excel sheets, have got what, which you can teach your students to know how to use them to collect data. In terms of analysis, we have the SPSS, the Stata, we have the in vivo, all for qualitative and quantitative research. How many lecturers know about this and how to use them? If as a lecturer you don't know about them and you can't use them, then how can we progress? How can we supervise our students? In terms of ethical issues, they are at the center of our operations, but at times we don't use them. For these students' work to become professors, and we make sure that we undermine ethical considerations, but we are very good at talking about them. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a shame. This thing is not acceptable. Let's look at the ethical issues. Let's look at the ethical code. Let's have the ethical code actually, not only for research, but for our institutions in general. If I start looking at ethical issues, I will get lost in the maze. So I would rather leave it there because you know what I'm talking about. One of the issues, I've already covered it. Learn from each other in the supervision journey because the students also know some things that supervisors do not know. Let's move on. Work collegially as co-supervisors, not to fight for superiority and hegemony at the expense of students completing their studies. This is very important. We need to make sure that we don't fight our wars as lecturers so that it's like two elephants are fighting and the grass is suffering. What does a student have to do with all the ills between you? Some students have failed to graduate because of us. Some students have committed suicide, like we have said. Some lecturers have been killed by students who have been enraged because they've been stupefied. All these things, ladies and gentlemen, we can work over them. You find that students submit their work. One person, an internal examiner, gives a student a 33%. 3 external examiners give a 75%, an 85%, and 91%. So can't you see that it will still catch up with you? What are you trying to settle? Which score are you settling using the student's dissertation or a thesis? Ladies and gentlemen, those practices are not good. Let's leave them. They don't benefit us. They don't benefit our institutions. They don't benefit our students. When you look at it again, do not ask for topics. We covered it yesterday. Rather, ask for the problem that the student wants to research about. And this will not tie the students to the topic, and it will help us. So we need to observe that. Let's also look at the issue of compartmentalization. This is a huge challenge which works against institutions. So interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary research in a business and entrepreneurial milieu will help us, because here we now learn how to value research activity in our institution. If we look at it, we can have competitions cyclic competitions, we put like innovation forums, creativity and innovation forums, one for students, one for staff. They come up with their project topics. We have competitions, we award them, maybe it's 3,000, 2,000 and 1,000, whether it's shillings, Zambian kwacha, cedis or US dollars, it's up to you. But then it will cultivate this spirit of coming up with researches that end up in institutional intellectual property in terms of copyrights, which can be sold, or patents in terms of hard products. Look at technical universities. Look at those with engineering, those with arts and design, those with music, those with psychology, those with engineering. What could come if we put at the center these things, knowing that by the time the student, the lecturer, and the institution work together, they can have a business model. So we need a policy for that, that the student, if we are looking for snake venom treatment, and the student comes up with the idea, what percentage will be given to the student in terms of remuneration? What will the supervisor get? What will be the institution get for final administration and patenting of that snake venom treatment? You move on. We want this tool which will help us in this. You can sell to other institutions and you are generating income for your institution. And then the other institution, imagine the intra-Africa collaboration, intra-Africa business model, intra-Africa institutions, entrepreneurial milieu. How would it look like? Research will start making sense. But what you recognize is that in some instances, we just do it for the sake of doing it. I've shown you from the onset what happens with some other researches. Yesterday and before, we were told that these researches are gathering dust elsewhere. But in the coming topics, we are going to talk about researches and what they can yield for institutions. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a waste of time to invest in research in your institutions. Training and exposure of both students and staff in ICT and digital tools for data collection and analysis, ground rules from the start of the working relationship, very important. I just want to show you this. Look at what the US is spending in terms of research. China, Japan, Germany, South Korea, France. And when we go around, can you pick an African country? I'm seeing Mozambique, Namibia, Algeria, Uganda. But how much when others are giving billions? How much are you dedicating to research? Ladies and gentlemen, this is food for thought for us. Very, very important. In the interest of time, allow me to stop here. But my wish, as always, is that I will see a lot of thank you, Dr. Makuku, in the panel, chat panel. But the biggest thank you you can give me is the thank you where you are trying to make a change, practical steps towards improving things in your institution for the better, so that in future we can complete the research cycle. I think in one of the next topics, we are now tackling this research aspect to the next level to say that from doing good researches with our students, we have not been completing the cycle of research. So what can we do to complete the research cycle so that we have intellectual property that can now give us money and lead us to another direction? Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you for your time. I don't know, Irene, I know we have another meeting, but can we allow 1 or 2? I can see the usuals, Dr. Simbara Shemnikwa, I can see the usuals who are here, just 1 or 2 people, 3 people, so that we can join the other AAU meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay, Doc, thank you very much. At this point, if anyone has a question or a contribution, kindly raise up your hands in the chat panel so that I can allow your microphone and then you can speak. So kindly raise your hands.
And then, Irene,
thank you.
For those who are making contributions, it should be something which has been left out of the presentations, so that at least it makes sense, not necessarily repetition, unless it's an addition. Thank you.
All right, and so GV Lubungu, I've asked you to unmute. If you can hear me, kindly unmute and then make your submission or ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you getting me?
Yes, please. We can hear you. Kindly go on.
Yes. First, I would like to thank you for organizing such a wonderful conference. And my contribution is on the aspect of viva voce. I feel that the viva voce or defense is one aspect that is perceived to be a torture chamber to the students, because some panelists seem to be bent on quizzing or bruising the student, as opposed to sharing the, yes. So how do you look at that aspect as institutions? And then the other aspect is I have in mind the aspect of colloquiums. I think institutions, to help the students get down into research, is better for them to organize colloquiums, so that through colloquiums they're able to exchange ideas through those presentations. I've had a wonderful time at my university where I'm doing my PhD. Through those colloquiums, I've benefited a lot. But how many universities are into such arrangements to help the students get into research? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. An excellent input indeed. You remind me of my master's. Can you mute your microphone, Jive? You are from which country before?
Okay.
Which country are you from?
From Zambia.
Thank you. Can you mute your microphone? Thank you very much. That's a good one. I actually want to say that yesterday we talked about people who don't know qualitative research, but they want to sit either in the research boards or promotions of somebody who is in qualitative research or vice versa. And when these people come, as a student, for example, when I did my master's, it was a grilling period. When I finished, I went and planted carrots on 1 acre of land in less than 2 hours. Because I could tell a person is asking me of impossibilities, and I had already defined the parameters of my research project, but they were asking me, why did you do this? And why didn't you do that? Because I stated that my delimitation, research delimitation and geographical delimitation, didn't you see it in? And then you respond. Somebody asked a student, remember yesterday I said, even a PhD, you can get it with one respondent, an orphan or an albino. So what happened? This one is from quantitative and asked a student defending a qualitative PhD, why is it that you have one respondent? Why didn't you have many? He says, no, yes, I know. Now the student was also a bit stubborn because now he was trying to expose the panel member. And so he said, I knew that because I could graduate with one, it's permissible. And so I said, how can you say you can graduate with a PhD with one, what? But he eventually now said, in qualitative research, it's permissible. So it tells you what I told you yesterday is very important. Make sure your research boards, your panels, your promotions, your examiners, your supervisors know the area that whose task you are giving them to do. And this should also be balanced so that those who are in qualitative are not disadvantaged by the quantitative people. And those in quantitative are not disadvantaged by those in qualitative from our discussion yesterday. And then, yes, these colloquials and in-house workshops, like I've said, they are very, very important. Thank you. Let's have another good, unique one like this one. Thank you, Jill.
Okay, so Adobia Ferry, if you can hear me, I've asked you to unmute, kindly unmute and make your submission.
Oh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon.
I'm very happy to attend this webinar. Actually, I started my master's and the supervisor giving me, he wasn't around when we were defending the proposal. At the defense, I defended and they told me, it seems I know what I'm doing, so they should give me the opportunity to go ahead. But whenever I presented any work, he would say he doesn't understand. And he will not give you any guidelines. He would tell you, write chapter 1 to 3, write chapter by chapter. At the end of the day, he said, go back and rewrite the proposal again. And at a point, I had to stop. So at times, the supervisors given should know how best to go about things and how best to help us so that we can develop ourselves professionally. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's another dimension. You write chapter 1, chapter 2, and one can tell you, go and write chapter 1 to 3. Write chapter 1 to 3, how? And this gives a lot of room for academic dishonesty. And now when it's serious business, the supervisor may now try to read things and you redo again. Sometimes he or she just tells you what you did was wrong. So guide me, if this was wrong, what is the correct thing so that I don't repeat the wrong things? Nobody tells you. Ladies and gentlemen, we may be found wanting. I'm not saying students are always right, but sometimes we also need to do our part. I think, Irene, if there is anything, people should continue to write in the chat panel.
All right,
but
Doc.
In the interest of time, surely I want to thank you for your time. I want to say sorry to those who wanted to say something because already another meeting started at 2, which I and Irene have to attend. So thank you for participating. Today, unfortunately, we had a smaller platform of 500. So many people were complaining that we can't get in. I'm so sorry. So this is the reason why I always say for the Tuesday workshops, you pay for the recorded links so that as the Association of African Universities, we are able to have, number one, more platforms and larger platforms which can accommodate everyone. Yesterday, I had a platform of 1,000 and you realized that we got up to around 700 participants. But today I feel so sad that maybe even more people wanted to attend, but the platform was full. So continue to support us, paying your $50 for 2 links and a certificate, $100 for 4 links and a certificate. And so we managed to expand our platforms so that more people can benefit. I want to thank you. I thank Irene, Kwesi, and Ankoma. I want to thank the AAU ICT department, AAU leadership and management. I thank you all for participating. I thank myself. I thank those who have been with us. I can see Roslyn again is here. All the time, there are some people who have been with us. The vice chancellors, Simbarashe Mnikwa, Dr. Pauline Esoka, and all who have always been with us, continue to be with us. I will send you the Telegram group link. Also, if you want to be an AAU member, you can't be a member as an individual. You can be a member as an institution, college, university, or an institute that deals with higher and tertiary education, research, or anything like that. Go on to our website, Association of African Universities, www.aau.org, and then the application form is there. If you have any challenges, please write to me and we can always respond to you. I thank God for always guiding us through these exercises, but I think we are making impact and changes in our institutions. Any comments, continue to write on the chat panel, your email address also, and your WhatsApp number. Let's meet on Tuesday. Please, it's 11:45 GMT, that is Ghana time, 12:45 Nigeria time, 12:45, 1:45 Southern Africa time, 2:45 East Africa time. Let's also share with many when we get the links. But when you are on Telegram group, you will not miss anything because we will always post information there. Even the presentations for today, it's a bonus. So because it's a Wednesday, it's not a Tuesday, the bonus materials are going to be posted on the Telegram group. Till we meet again on Tuesday, please be well and do well and use this to improve your institutions, to make me happy, and let's have the impact. To our panelists, Frank from Accra Technical University, I thank you. To our students, panelists, I thank you for sharing with us the balanced presentations. Thank you. If you have anything that you want to have a webinar, start communicating with me now. We arrange. It's slightly a process because we go through checking how we can make it a good thing, worth sharing at continental level, worth sharing at global level, international level. I thank you and bye-bye. So you can continue putting in your information. Later on, Irene will then close, but we are giving you like 10 minutes or so or less, but write whatever information, put correct email addresses. Thank you. Bye-bye.